Yeah, definitely. So these are the generic types component that is made by Yako. Yako has done so many works doing this. So there's like balance, like boat. I mean, if you're gonna use like democracy module, you're gonna totally see like T like turtlefish boat in there. Then Yako is gonna do all those work for you, and yeah. So and by the way, there's like a so the Substrate 2.0 has changes its syntax from as to convert native type to generic type from into from because Rust has deprecated as. So this is from right now. And to change like some numbers into like generic types that we use in the librs. So like for example, moment is like U64 when using timestamp, but it we only can use U32 for now in runtime module. I was trying the other numbers to convert this into generic type, but it got a bug. I'll try to reproduce it like in later, and but let's just focus on this for now.
Oh,
So
that's what you were telling me. You ran into a small like an issue and opened a report about it.
yeah, but if you look closely on what it is, like it says that the program says that it already has a possibility of making a bug, but I'm just trying to find out why it is and what we can do about those like problem with the university.
Okay,
Uh, yeah,
cool.
but I'll show you later. With my collaborating university in Korea University, and then probably make a new collaborative learning thing.
Okay.
But yeah, the thing is that you have to make U64 out of U32. So I had to make a function so that I can change the generic type with the big number with U32. So this is two balance functions. I don't know why balances module not have this. Maybe they're just too focused on making generic types. But yeah, this is what it is. So runtime modules like runtime modules like one equals like one femto. So you just started from there, and one dot equals like one multiplied by 10 to the power of 12. So this is what the function does. So this is like the JavaScript like lambda functions, like
Uh-huh.
closures, yeah, closures, and then for milliseconds, like for timestamp, if you there's like a current, if you just multiply 1,000 by current time, it just goes over U32. So I had to make this function.
So, okay, wait a second. So tell us more about that 2 milli function there. That sounded like something interesting. Like you were having an issue with overflowing the size of the moment data type.
Yeah, it turns out that the once you change the once like the generic types, what generic types does in the timestamp module is that they change it into a millisecond. I don't know why they do that, but maybe they're trying to avoid like a floating point error, but they really do it. Let me show you. I need to get inside to that module. Yeah. So there's already 2 milli functions as I remember. Maybe in the moment type. Moment, yeah, control click. Uh, Probably like,
Okay, cool. So, okay, so let me slow down here a little bit to make sure everybody's following. So you're looking at this is on the screen right now. This is code you didn't write. This is part of the SRML, right? And it's the timestamp module.
yeah, and then if you see that there's like as millis functions. So
Okay.
inherent type is the native type that they're talking about. So D is like the argument basically. So this is what if they say like standard in runtime module, they're trying to do it in the standard library. And
Hmm.
what timestamp module now does, it's not using WASM, it's using a standard library of system time. If you can see that, you can see the standard library there,
Hmm.
and you get the system time from the Linux system, and then you change it into as millis, which means that if you just type like what so 1 year is like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to actually multiply 1000, and the current time is actually like kind of like at the edge of like U32 maximum. So if you like multiply 1000, it just goes over that.
Okay, so the number of milliseconds in a year is too big to fit into a U32 is the sort of the fundamental problem.
Yes,
Okay.
and I'll show you how it is on Polkadot.js apps, showing you the demo.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
gonna show you that, and yeah, and that's like the tips for now. And I'll walk around how this thing works. So basically, like if you register a domain, you get like 1 year of time to live. So which means that until 1 year, it's yours, and you have a initialization fee for making that. So if it already exists, this will show in the console as like an error, or you can just like return like blah blah blah. And that's how you do that to make an error.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's it. But ensure just does that simple. You can think of it like a validity is like a required keyword, and time to live is like you make it as like a millisecond registration. So this is the function to get a current time. We just looked it over with the standard library, and I'm pretty sure to send an email, you need to make it like a standard library and to do that. So yeah, that's what it is. This is what just I mean, the system just withdraws the balance of like 1 milli dot from the user, but not that does not do anything about it. But for now, I'll probably add like some pot for validators to have those initialization price and do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and
So
this
right,
is
what happened to those funds right now? Like if I were to register a domain, those funds just get burned, or I get them back when I release the domain or something?
just gets burned though. But I need to learn Treasury module though. Like, it'd be great if someone could explain how Treasury module works. But
Oh, we
for
put it on
now,
my list for a future topic.
yeah. Probably how to make a pot and then work on it. I saw in Gap tutorial, but I want to know how to manage that in Treasury. So, I mean, you cannot just waste it. I mean, I just wanted to contribute to the validator so that they can maintain the system. So that's that. So this actually like creates a struct. So I was once trying to make this into like a class and start object oriented programming, but it turns out that it does not really support method when in Parity codec. So I'm just kind of making it like new struct in some long way. So yeah, so this is how you insert the data to the hash map in the runtime.
Okay, so
And
it's a just a map from the domain hash to that whole struct that you just built up there, right? That's like your main
yeah,
storage item.
yes,
Okay, cool.
and yeah, it turns out it works. And this is the getter. I'm pretty sure the recent substrate works with fn, but right now it's just not right now. But
Yeah, I think that's actually really, I'm really happy that came up. So yeah, the latest substrates, it still works the way you have it here without the FN, but it now also supports an explicit FN in there, which makes it totally more clear that like that's a getter function you're defining.
yeah, so that's what it does. So this is also a getter. The domains is like it just represents the total number of domains. You just increment it and then just put it in the domain the storage, and it just deposits the event. Hey, the domain just got registered, and this is the way you set the IPv4. So IPv4 is like, basically it's like a 4 byte array of U8. So like if it's like like if there's like a localhost, you can just kind of like make it encode into hex and then put it into Polkadot.js app. Uh, oh wait. That's like I'm in the other monitor. So yeah, you can just make it into hex and then you can put it in a Polkadot.js apps. I'll show you what it is. Yeah. So you set the IPv6 IPv4 and then get the IP address, and then you can pretty much get into the server with this domain as well as the Polkadot account. And you can resolve it. I mean, this is actually kind of unnecessary when you're building your own front end component, but you can just kind of use this for like debugging. So I would recommend just showing a whole struct, making event of showing the whole struct. This is what it is. And this is the function which renews the time to live for a year. So if you're already bought a year and you want to extend it, you pay the price from the price that you bought before, and then just pay it. You get it 1 more year. And if you do not renew it, someone will find out that you have passed the time to live and then claim auction for your domain so that they can put it in an auction. At that time, you just lose the ownership of your domain, and the domain will be on the auction. So you have to be careful not to have this thing. And when the auction is claimed, that like the account can just make a new bid, and the bid is like the highest bid will be only recorded on the domain struct. So there's like a highest bid. Once an account makes like the highest bid in there, the number will be recorded. The one who sent the highest bidder will be recorded here, unless they submit the transaction before the auction is closed.
Okay. So is there I remember with EMS, there's an opportunity, like when I want to first register a domain, I have to like express interest in registering it, and then the auction period starts. Is that happening here as well? Or like
Yes.
the first, oh, it is, okay.
But first, like registration, I'm just trying to give one, just instead of setting an auction.
Okay.
If there's like a domain which has not been registered before, that's yours. I mean, you can just have it. What I can extend this is to limit the format of the domain with the regex library. I found out that regex also supports node standard mode by parsing its regular expressions. So I can limit like .io or dot or like Bitcoin to be only used as like a domain. Well, I can add that, or support IPv6 and then do all those SSL and let's encrypt, and that's just gonna make a whole new DNS for decentralized internet, I guess. So yeah, that's it.
So how does an auction end? Like let's say I had some domain and it my year expires or whatever, and I think maybe I'll like it back, but then you also want it, and we have this bidding war. Oh, okay, so finalize auction. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I just made an auction not available when the auction is closed. But for finalizing auction, when the auction has been closed, like right now, and like anybody can ask to close it. So I'm pretty sure if someone is interested in just buying that thing, I'm pretty sure they're just gonna look over like when it ends and then send that transaction. That's what I'm hoping for right now.
Okay.
But yeah, it would be great if in every block there's like a callback to find it out if this auction is closed and then like process this transactions. But I'm not sure. I haven't checked it on ENS yet that it exists. Yeah.
I'm looking at line 235. So is my understanding, I guess, is like this auction is going to be available for some specific period of time, and then like after that time elapses, then anyone can call this finalize auction thing. It's just up to someone to do it, I guess. Or
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe I can use functions to get the block time just before, just one finalized block before, and then just process this. But I need to find it out how it is. But yeah. Cool. But anyone can ask to finalize auction if the auction is closed, and then the highest bidder will get the new domain, and the new price will be the highest bid price that the bidder just like submitted. So when the next owner wants to renew that, they need to pay the highest bid price that they get. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question.
Yep.
You have an auction and you have fields like available and auction closed. Available is a Boolean and auction closed is a block number, correct?
Yeah.
Uh, I just had a similar situation and I wanted to ask whether is it optimal to have both of these fields or is it a block number is enough?
I think I see what you mean. So like it just I mean if you just see this, it just checks this if the domain is available, right?
Yeah,
And
but what
found
if
out
you
that
compute the current block on place and try and ask?
yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then if you see the claim options, like there's like an option where owner can just sell it if they want. So if in case of claim auction, if the owner, the source just want to just sell this thing, they can just claim it to be available for the auction. So that's why that
Okay, so you have another functionality for this flag.
yeah, so
Okay,
that's what it is probably. So but there's like or so this is the case for the one who just the other guy who wants to who just found out the domain is like TTL is final expired. This is like the case where the sender just want to trash the domain, and that's how the domain just becomes available, and the other functions just need to look at if the domain is available. So yeah.
okay.
So what does available mean? It just means no one's registered it right now, right?
Uh, it's like it's like owned by someone, but it's not available for selling. That's what it
Oh,
means. Yeah.
I see.
So
Okay.
like I mean, if it is not registered, it's just not in the storage, so you can just register it.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So can I, like, let's say there's some domain that no one's ever used before, it's like totally pristine. Can I register it and then sell it to someone else for more?
I think it is, but like currently it just ports the auctions, but not private exchange. But I'm pretty like if you just want to close, I was like wondering if the owner can just finalize auction if they just want to. So there's like a test comment if you just so the every auction ends in like 1 hour, and there's like a or function where just for owner that can just end the auction. So if you just put this comment, I mean, I eventually have to show you the demo. So this is what the domain owner just gonna finalize the auction before it ends, before 1 hour passes. So I guess you can make that into like a private exchange, I guess.
I think you might have dropped that in the wrong spot.
Probably. Wait. Oh yeah. I dropped it in the wrong spot. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay,
No.
cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understood it right. Okay, cool.
So that's how the thing goes. But I'm not sure. Should I add this or should I just wait 1 hour, like to get the other people who wants to buy this domain in a more expensive price?
So what, okay, so let's see. The line, so this is in the like finalize auction function you're talking, right? And your
Yeah.
comment, the auction is finalized or the source wants to finalize the auction. What does the source mean again?
The owner.
The owner of the domain. Okay.
Yeah, so the owner of the domain, if he just wants to finalize the auction before someone other just like bid in higher price, like that's what they do.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying this is like I own the domain, I decided to put it up for auction, and now it's like it's already got a good price. I'm happy with it. I just want to be like, okay, we're done.
Yeah, but but economically, I don't think that would make sense.
Yeah, I agree, but it's going to be good for your demo, though, right?
But yeah, I'm just doing it for my demo though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the code review, and if you could give me any feedback, that would be nice.
You want to share the link to the repo and then give us a demo?
Yeah, sure. I'm also making a standard. I just want to make it into like an interchain and then kind of set it into like maybe in Polkadot, I guess. It would be amazing if Polkadot can provide like a naming service and then
Yeah.
website like let's encrypt just by having like multi-chain and all that. I think it's gonna be so crazy if you could do that. So this is the current repo that I'm working. Just let me get the chat screen.
Yeah. I'll make sure it goes in the recording, the video description on YouTube too.
Yeah, okay. Okay, U32 in runtime means like probably the native type is the native type that the generic type conversion is not fallible. So I'll show you the proof of this. So there's like on every like generic types, I found out that there's like a simple arithmetic inheritance. So I'll show you what it is. Go to timestamp, go to moment, and there it is, simple arithmetic. So the comment says U32 values are, okay, there's like a arithmetic times all you usual stuff that you expect numbers to do. They are guaranteed to do to be able to represent at least U32 values without loss. So hence that the trait implies from U32 and small ints. So we have U8, U16, U32, but try from is like what is the conversion for the big numbers, I guess. And I tried it, but it shows a bug. So I'm researching it with the Korea University and probably show it later. So yeah.
I have a Stack Overflow post with syntax for how to use try and to, try from, and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, so probably that the method I did was like to use core convert try from and then to like match like t like moment like try from and then u like some u to like as u sides, and if it is okay then it returns v, and if shows an error like t moment from 1 and then like add insert comment if converted does not equal moment from 1, then just so yeah, I thought this logic would work though, but it just didn't. So yeah. So I'm trying to find out why.
So, okay, hold on. Let me, before you delete that, I want to make sure I'm understanding this here. So you call T moment try from U128 as U size.
Yeah.
Where's the actual value? I feel like I'm missing something. Like what value were you? Or like U128 is supposed to be like an actual variable that has type U1. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just like there's like a bulk branch that I'm currently working on. So like you will be like some really big numbers, just like
Okay.
and then A has U sides. So I thought it would work, but it just kind of does like some overflow things. Like I tested on a Polkadot.js apps and I saw the event. It was like 3.365 like millidot. Like seems like there's like an overflow or like value loss between the conversion. But yeah, I'm just kind of like experimenting that and then probably like decode it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, keep us posted. It'll be interesting to learn more from this experiment, I think. Sean,
Yeah.
Here's the link to your Stack Overflow post you were talking about.
I put it into chat.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but I wouldn't recommend just using a try from because the comment already says that it's fallible. So that's the practice I do is just to make a balance type. I'm pretty sure for those who use those, like who just want to put numbers in the runtime are like making a balance value or like timestamp value. So I think these tips are like really super useful when they're trying to like build their like a real economy or like calculate with their real like time and stuff. So I'm just wondering why these two functions are not like put it in their like SRML. So yeah, I mean it would be great if they could put it. So
Yeah, I think in general, I mean, sorry, I don't have the full context to be able to give you a good solution, but I don't think this function is something that is the right way to approach the problems that you're trying to solve. Yeah, it's hard to say exactly right now, but in general, like one thing you should know is that like different blockchains don't use the same necessarily like starting point for units. Like the idea of a dot being 10 to the 12 is a completely arbitrary thing. Like in the terms of blockchain, 1 unit is 1 unit. So whether or not you treat it as a dot or whatever, it doesn't matter.
oh yeah, okay. Then well, Polkadot.js apps consider it kind of like doing that, but you know,
Right, but that's a front end experience, right? Not a blockchain experience. Like the blockchain doesn't care about where a dot is; it cares about 1 unit, and then the UI and how it presents things is totally different.
But if one blockchain just tries to calculate with the float, then they might face the floating point error. So I'm pretty sure they might prefer using this kind of number system.
There is no float rate on the blockchain. It's all fixed point arithmetic.
Yeah, so to express that float, what they use is just to use a big int. So in case of Ethereum, like 1 in this code equals like 1 femto, which is like 0.00000001. So, so which is why like if to express 1 in the front end experience in Ethereum, they also do this kind of practice. So like I'm pretty sure the other blockchain would do the same thing. So maybe this in that case, maybe this function would be good, but maybe some of the other I don't know how other blockchains just come out, but yeah. But yeah, okay. But if they just want to test some like balance in doing that, but I would just recommend using this. But that's that's for Substrate right now. Okay.
Okay, cool. Do you want to show us a demo of what you've built, and then we'll turn it over to Ben?
Yep. Oh wait! I need to. Oh yeah, I removed the try from. Yeah.
How long do those compiles usually take? Does it make more sense to let Ben present and then you do the demo, or?
It used to be like 28 minutes in my Mac, but this would take like 2 minutes though, which is why I'm just working in Linux.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think that was an interesting point that like, yeah, you know, what 1 unit means in each blockchain is kind of up to that individual blockchain. I also definitely see both sides where it's like if Polkadot.js apps assumes one thing, it's like kind of convenient to just meet those assumptions so that you can use that whole ecosystem of tools they have built.
Yeah, and there's actually like a blog post in ETH Research to like use only integers to express floating numbers, which is why the balance is like 1 to 8 right now. And Ethereum had a lot of like discussions to how to use like units and balance. And I'm pretty sure like Polkadot like inherited from that experience, which is why the unit works like this. But if other blockchain wants to use float, then well, I don't mind doing that, but this is like the right way. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think, are you like drawing the distinction between like fixed point and floating point numbers? Or my understanding of that is that with fixed point, you have like some specific number of decimal places that you can use. But the advantage is that you're sure you have deterministic calculation. So like if I add a really big number to a really small number, I always get the same result, and there's no like round off error or something like that.
Sure. Actually, well, they can use floating numbers, but the thing is that if you use floats, you're gonna basically turn that into like binary functions where computers, it's like structures. So if you use a floating error, there's some kind of like a what so let's just say like if you just make it into like a 2 to the like make it into like a binary number, and then you find out that the number is kind of like what like it's not divided by 2, then there are some cases where like some number has to be added for like 0.5 or minus 0.5, and then that will create like inaccuracy in the calculation in the blockchains. And if those calculations are not uniform based on what OS they're using, then the calculation system and the block like uniform like the uniform blockchain data will be like nothing. Like it's going to be destroyed, which is why they're trying to use like integer. Yes. So,
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Looks like our compile's ready.
oh, right. Okay. So I'm just gonna purge the chain. Yeah. And running in dev, and this is so far the JS apps. This is Explorer. So like you can pretty much use Polkadot.js apps like remix right now.
Can't see your browser right now.
I was trying to really develop like a front end like component, but like it's kind of like tedious for doing that. I mean, I was just trying to test the blockchain, and I have to develop my like front end component for this. I mean, that's too hard.
We don't. I don't. Are you showing your web browser right now?
Yeah, I need to show that. Okay. So yeah, this is how you use Polkadot.js apps. So what I do is actually use like multi-monitor, or just use Spectacle app to to have this in like one side here, one side there. But what I'm trying to do is separate them. Yeah. So one for extrinsic, one for Explorer for getting the event. So let's just register a domain first. For generating a real name hash, test, go to hash and then node wait. To JS, what was it?
I think you might be about to do something that I also wanted to learn. So are you going to show us like how to do a hash in JavaScript and get the same bytes that you get when you do it in Rust with the system modules Blake 2 hasher?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Josh, I actually have one of those in one of the samples too, so I can show it to you.
In your what sample?
Yeah, I got it from Sean. So
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Where did you say that lives, Sean?
I got it. I got this function from.
I'll put it in chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you get. This is how you. And this is just a plain function. But what name hash would do is just hash this and hash that, hash these, and then hash the whole thing. Yeah. But it's just a simple example. So you hash it, you get the same hex string, and then you kind of copy that, and then and then you get the hash over it. And then if you just really want to put like IPv4, I just kind of add that. So I just say put localhost. Convert to hex, then that's what you get. And then you get the recent event, the domain is registered. You get this the fee, and then this the moment. As you can see that it is calculated in a millisecond. So you have to multiply like 1,000. And this is where it overflows from U32. And
So
if you
that
want to
so the top moment is when you registered it. That's like right now, roughly, and the second one is supposed to be how that's your time to live, which is supposed to be about a year.
Yeah, so what I do is like I submit extrinsic and get resolved from the event. If it doesn't work, the console will show what the error is. It will be something that I use in like ensure. Actually, let's do that. Let's do the same thing. Like since I register a domain, it should show an error that the domain is already registered. So
FYI, I think the solution to your problem is to use block number, not moment.
yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think even in the docs it says like using moment is like not the right thing in general, like because the block, like when a block gets produced is kind of like it's rough, right? So you really want to use block number as the one thing that the blockchain knows is really like distinct.
Yeah, that's what I came up for.
Okay. All right then. Block number then. All right.
I think I agree with that too. I want to play devil's advocate just for a second.
Okay.
Like, what if in an application like this, I want to say like, okay, this domain's registered for 1 year, but then like maybe later on the block time. So instead I say like, okay, like let's see, 1 year from now the block height will be this based on 6-second block time. But then like at some point in the interim, the block time changes and gets faster or something. Is there? Yeah. What do
Well, that's unfortunate.
yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah.
I agree in general. It's unfortunate, but something that you as a runtime developer, I think, should keep in mind when you do upgrades like this. Like how your blockchain will be affected if you change the block time is like a very reasonable thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not solved the other way around. If you use the timestamp, which is an inherit, you would, like, the only check that the runtime does is that it's bigger than the old one. So if I wanted to snap your domain, I need to be a validator that puts on a timestamp that is that far in the future, and get it validated, and everybody would agree that the timestamp is sort of right. So it's tricky. Time on chain is tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
because time is not a concept that blockchain like directly understands, but block number definitely is. So
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay.
Then you just said something interesting too, though. Like, is it true that the only check that happens on the timestamp is that it's bigger than before? There's no like, this can't be too big, considering. Or I thought, don't validators reject blocks where the timestamp is like too far different from their own timestamp?
Depends on the algorithm. So for some, like the timestamp, so for Bape and Aura, actually the timestamp has to match the slot that they are in. Otherwise, they would say like you're trying to do something bad in here. But if you run a POW chain or something like this, there's no way of rejecting that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Good thinking.
Okay. So should I use T block number then? Okay.
I mean, we can follow up later. This is not something that will affect what you're doing right now.
Okay, whatever. All right. So okay, all right. So just make it an auction like yeah. So a service. So yeah, let's make it into auction. The auctions has come out, and let's go back to Bob. Bob now has some bunch of money there, and let's just say there's a for the one dev, submit a transaction. Yep. So there's like a new bid, and let's just check if the domain works. Yeah, this bid price. This is the highest. This is the highest bid. It's a bidder. And if you want to finalize it, go back to Alice. That's the Alice from before. Now, finalize the main. Yeah. And then Alice received 1 dot. As you can see, 1 dot is received from the Bob to Alice. Auction has been finalized. Bob has it. Let's just check if the Bob has that thing. And it's for Bob's, yeah. So yeah, Bob can just do another auction again, I guess.
Cool. Okay, this is great.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you for sharing. And have you given us the link so it goes in the video description? Oh yeah, I see it in there. Substrate naming service.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for sharing and offering your code for feedback. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll probably ask some CAs and then see if I can provide like privacy or like PKI or GPG and byte array. I think it would be cool. Yeah. It would be a lot to make fun, you know? Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, should we turn it over to Ben? Ben, I remember you wanted to show your hackathon project, right?
That was the idea. What time frame are we talking about though? Because it's already like.
Yeah, the hour ends in about 10 minutes. I'm happy to stay around longer. I know in the past people have sometimes dropped off, but then they watch the recording on YouTube, so I'm happy to keep hosting. How long do you want?
I actually have to do dinner for the kid at some point soon, so that's more my issue on this. I would briefly introduce it, but maybe 10-15 minutes only, and maybe we can come back to it next time, because I think there's a lot of interesting things, but also some things still evolving. And I would share like
what if you give us the overview and leave us with an exercise to complete for next time? We have to play with your project.
Okay, sure.
That would be
yeah. Let me share my screen, and can I only share one thing at a time? Okay. No, I can share the entire desktop. So let's do this. Okay. So we sat down for a hackathon the weekend before this one, Diffusion in Berlin. And we wanted to do an actual real life project and more inspired by meetup.com changing its pricing structure to be really shitty. And thought about like, sure, you can now self-host your own thing again, but it would be much better if we had a central registry. And meetup.com is nothing else than a central registry for events and groups that can manage these events. And so we sat down and said, okay, let's try to build this in Substrate with a few Parity hackers and actually some people from Protean, I think is the name, who have been actually building a similar system over the last 2 years in multiple iterations by now, using Ethereum smart contracts. But with one particular twist, we do not care that we actually blockchain, in the sense of that for the end user, there is nothing that makes it inherently appear to be or act like a blockchain. So the idea is that you really do, I have to actually sign up first. Sign up with your username and a password, which I hope is long enough. And you would also, like, you don't care that there's crypto involved, but you don't care that this actually goes to the chain now, although you see it on the bottom right here, there's a block number and stuff. And we don't notice that there's accounts happening in the background, and there's technically a wallet management and that kind of stuff. Because the idea is that we want to get people off meetup.com, and they don't really care and are not familiar with the entire thing that this new crypto provides. And so the idea was to look at the data structures and really bear it down and say we want to do something that is pseudonymous as meetup.com is. Like, you can still create any accounts, like the email address is also not stored on chain, obviously. We just use that combination with the password as a mnemonic phrase to generate that at login and startup time to register. And then you can join communities, you can interact with groups, and the data you see here, aside from the registry itself, is actually all IPFS, all metadata, which we do not store on chain, but only a reference to. And thus we can talk about it being pseudonymous in the sense of that there's no real way of tracking you if you don't want to be tracked. So real briefly, there's a few things that we did and that we had to overcome doing this. And I want to touch them really briefly. So one was the data structure. Like we're doing a lot of data structures and a lot of structuring of data within various Substrate projects, but none of them have actually really gotten to the point that they try to replicate a tool that is fully out there. So that means that we actually have to define a lot more things than you initially anticipate. Although we added one more thing, so we thought about the idea of this being a proof of authority consortium chain of use of groups that of communities, for example, the Open Textbook community, the Ruby community, the Python community, that then have groups, and each group might be like the Python community Berlin, the Python community Munich, and that kind of stuff. So the communities are this overarching main architecture that are consortium members and would also be like one community means one validator, more or less. And then within a community, you have groups, and each group actually has a location, is bound to some area that you can find of. And then within a group, you have multiple events. You can join a community and you get informed about new groups that happen. You can join a group, and then you learn about new events that happen, and then you can actually RSVP to an event. Because we wanted to move away from the word of event, which in Substrate has its own meaning, they're called gatherings, which is also where the word gather comes from, which is what we named the project. And so the structures are overall actually not that complex, but if you think about them from the perspective of the data chain, not providing features to query them other than the storage, and then we come up to the storage very soon, right here. This is our storage definition. I remind you, this doesn't even have accounts by itself. Accounts are coming from the outside. But what it has is communities, members to communities with roles per member, groups that belong to a community, members of that group, and gatherings for a community, for a group, and RSVPs to gatherings. And this is the first challenge, try to understand what we did here. But I give you a hint, when you have a map or many of these constructs right now, you cannot query all indices of a map, all keys of a map. You actually need to know the keys to look stuff up, which means that in order to know all communities, you somewhere need to track these keys on top. And the other thing is that you always have a bidirectional query. For every community on the community page, you want to show all its members, but every member also wants to know all the communities it is in. And this is why we keep more indices and states that in a PostgreSQL or like some relational database you would not keep, because you would actually gather that index at query time, which we can't, because you can't really query unless you fetch the entire set. The other two interesting things that we did here is, for one, the most important thing, aside from looking at the data at the time that I look at the website, is the other part of discovery. And that is, I mentioned that briefly, when I am a member of a group, if a new gathering happens, I should receive an email. Right? This is one of the key features of Meetup, is when I create a new group or community with a set of topics, and I have other people who are interested in topics within that location, they get an email about it. Bootstrapping a group is nowhere as easy as on meetup.com because of this central index. And so what we need is an email feature, which is inherently complicated on blockchains. So briefly, we have two parts of this. The first one is, how do we get the email to the node without actually putting them on chain? One possibility could be that we say we encrypt it and put it on chain, but the one that we opted for is go through offline storage. So what we do is when you register, we added another RPC call, which you can do. We can extend the RPC in Substrate, which is pretty nifty. Unfortunately, the exact thing that I'm doing here, because I'm accessing the backend directly, was not possible unless you use my patches, which I'm going to upstream soon, hopefully. So what we have here is we have another set of APIs that we expose to the JavaScript, which allow the user to say, for the following account ID, please send notifications to this email. And now what that should be doing is currently you see the blue stuff here. This is not compiled code at the moment. What it did before was just set that for that account ID, that email address in local storage, in the off-chain worker local storage. What it should actually do, and this is something I was working on before, generate the token, send an email out, have a second RPC call that when you click the link in that email, would then confirm the email, and only then we move it to storage for the off-chain worker. In the classic scenario, right? We want to make sure that you actually want these notifications for that email. But the important thing are two parts here. First, you connect account ID and email only to some nodes, not on chain, not publicly, not for everyone. And you could technically do that for any external account too. There's no direct connection between those two. You can create an account, or I know Joshi's account, and I can register my email address to Joshi's account to see what notification he gets. There is no way to prove that there's a direct link here, other than whoever asked for that has to confirm the email address. And so this would be what this confirmation does. What we use here for rendering the email is handlebars, which is a regular templating language, and some local templates, and the email builder from Letra, which is a pretty neat, nifty email and SMTP sending library. I'm not going to go into detail here. You can look that up later if you want. Now, the other part that would happen now, once you have stored that this key in the local storage, is the off-chain worker. And so in our module, aside from being able to create communities and update communities and join communities and join community memberships and all of that stuff, which is overall pretty straightforward. And we have a fully test coverage for that. I wrote tests before that, which I can really recommend. Like if you do these storage manipulations and you have like simple roles that say an admin can change the data of an event, but a normal member can't. This kind of stuff in there. This is really nice to have a bunch of unit tests down. Where is it? Down here. There we go. Here, regular flow. It just creates Alice, Bob. They create communities and then they create events and they subscribe to them and get all of this kind of stuff go through. So I'm really pretty certain that it actually works, which is nice. But in the off-chain worker, what we do is we have a two-part notification system. One is regular events. You can see them here. And then we have the notification system that we use internally, which is just a storage item in our gather that we reset at the beginning. I explained how to do that in the earlier discussion about an off-chain worker. And in the off-chain worker, where is it? Which we then have a handy notifier function for. If it's one of these two, we also store this notification item. In our off-chain worker, there we go. We just call send notification on STD. I come back to that in a minute. And send notification checks if for all the notifications that we found, if it is a new gathering that was created, we have a group ID and the gathering itself. And then we go to the gathering and we check the group members, all of the members of that group that haven't RSVP'd yet. And if they do, we check whether we can finally locally find an email address for that account. In our local storage, you can see that over here, we check that going for that key for that user, for the account ID that we have given, that we have an email address stored in the local storage, which means that we did this token authentication flow on the outside, but it also means that for a bunch of them, this particular node running, doesn't actually have any notification. If we do, however, we take that email for each of the emails we find and send them the new gathering email. The same we also implemented for an RSVP, because that was actually the thing that you could actually show, like log in, RSVP on something. If you have 5 minutes, you cannot really create new events and that kind of stuff, although we implemented that. And we do the same over here. For an RSVP that I updated the user ID here, we check if we have a user ID that matches an email address. If it does, we send out that RSVP email. And that is just an internal feature over here that then again looks up the storage configuration from the off-chain worker that we have, which is the SMTP setup. We actually built the letter transport, and that is all letter specific stuff. Create an email, rendering it through handlebars, and then send it out. And this is where the STD part comes in. Because I
want to interject a question real quick. You're showing us code, like I'm just looking at your left column there. This is all inside your runtime, right? This code that you're showing us now. But
that is all in the runtime, in the runtime.
Okay, but this stuff, because of like line 725 that I think you were just about to explain, like it doesn't get built to WASM. This stuff like only exists.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, cool. Continue.
The reason for that is that the off-chain workers, and we have a long discussion about this, has a limited set of APIs, in particular in the WASM. Inside STD, you technically have access to all. You're on the native client, you can do all Rust can do. Within the WASM, it's only the functionality that we actively expose. Right now, the only thing that is exposed there outside of the storage and the local storage that we do, that is going through the runtime IO that we also use in here, is an HTTP layer, which does not allow us to send emails. In the very first version, I did actually do that. I went through SendGrid's HTTP API to send emails, and you can, but that also means you need to hard code this kind of stuff. And that is clearly not what you want. And we also thought about this a little bit and then came to the conclusion that even what we're handling here is potentially sensitive information, like email information. And so we decided we are fine with this never being run inside the WASM. If there's an update on chain, and that means that we have a new WASM, that shouldn't actually do this. That shouldn't send out. You shouldn't be able to change the code and convince just the minority maybe of validators to accept a new block, because we can fork out, right? To have a code update that might expose this data, or that might actually take that email configuration and spams other people. So in order to prevent that, we decided to go for a bound on this needs to be natively built to run in the first place. So we want the node operators to actually deploy the new version that they want to see locally, otherwise it shouldn't email. And so this is the guarding we do here. For one part, because it's technically not possible in any other way, like you cannot send emails from within the WASM as it stands. And secondly, because we want this guarded. And those are, I think, the most interesting parts of new things that we added, of things that where we pushed the envelope a little bit. If you're interested in how that works and how you can actually like access the email from the RPC and from the runtime without getting into STD problems, you can see here that we actually had to create a different crate for it. And there's a lot more stuff. And in terms of other challenges, I happily gave you, aside from the data structure that you already saw, we've put down a bunch of issues of things that need happening, that we would like to see happen. And some of them I actually even picked up here already, like the entry point stuff. And secondly, there will be a blog post explaining more of the ideas that we have behind this consortium chain and why we think this is the way forward on issues like meetup.com or other platforms that need replacing, rather than going back to self-hosted, which is obviously going to fail, which is also going to be explained in that blog post. That is coming out tomorrow. So sneak peek on that. Unless you have any other questions, which I have another 3-4 minutes for, I'll leave you with that. I'm going to post that link to the source code once again. And
this is hella cool, Ben. This is hella cool.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, it's already in there. You already posted it. Oh yeah. We also did a JavaScript front-end React UI stuff. I forgot to mention, it's all on IPFS, obviously, all the other stuff. So fetching stuff through IPFS.
Did you use a starting template for the JavaScript front end, or did you do that from scratch?
The JavaScript front end, yeah, we used the React Create app.
And then you just use the Polkadot.js API?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, Sean, if you're getting toward a hint to the Substrate front end template. I also wanted to mention that when Hyung-Suk was showing us his work, there's this project, and I'll drop the link in there too, where it's basically, it's called the Substrate front end template, and it is Create React app. That's how we built it. Yeah. It has a bunch of common features, like it integrates with the Polkadot.js accounts extension, and it like shows you the block number and account balances, and it's like a nice place to kind of get started when you don't want to start from scratch.
I think we might have used that or part of that in the very beginning, but we dropped a few things out. And then, like, you know how JavaScript world works, like everything changes under your toes. So I don't even know anymore what all of this is necessarily.
I have a question about the off-chain worker.
Yeah.
Just say there's like there will be like a mainnet of my substrate using off-chain worker. Then when the off-chain worker activates, would every node send the off-chain request, or can I just set just validators only to send the off-chain worker, and then like maybe send that result to the other like slave nodes or like non-validator nodes?
Well, I mean, you cannot prevent any particular node from also doing stuff. I mean, it's public knowledge, so anybody could react to it. So we don't have any guards in there per se. This one in particular, every full node can do the off-chain worker stuff and can send emails out, which is, I think, a benefit. So you don't have to have validator rights, because it might be a consortium chain later in order to be able to do that. But the other example that I showed previously, where we have a subset of nodes sending the callback back, though they are only for those that actually are in that set of validators, it makes sense to even execute that code, because everyone else is just wasting resources. So that would be the pattern that I would recommend to look at.
Oh yeah, that substrate callback, the off-chain callback.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I agree that it cannot be a consortium, rather.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, should we wrap there, or Ben, is there anything else you'd like to share?
There's plenty of stuff in here. I mean, it was a lot of fun working, but
yeah,
I have to go. So
yeah.
Will there be a follow-up session on this later?
I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that sounds good. So let's, as like informal homework. Obviously, nobody has to do this if they don't want to, but it could be fun.
They have to. I question you.
Yeah, Ben's gonna give you a grade too, so I hope you do a good job. Yeah, let's just explore this code and come back with some questions for next week. And Ben, I just want to confirm one thing that I heard you say real quick. You added an RPC to your node here, right? To sign up for the email subscriptions?
Yeah, so an RPC call, right? So if we go, I think it's in service. Yeah, so in service, you need to add this extra RPC extension call, and that allows you to define the RPC service overall. It is also actually in Substrate node, not in the node template, because the node templates usually don't do that. But in Substrate node, we add this extra module, which is very uncommon, that has some RPC calls, which is for WASM contracts. And so what you can do is you have this IO handler. You use the normal systems API, which is what we generally have. And then if there is an off-chain storage, we extend our gather API system to that off-chain storage. And so this is all in the service definition. We actually create a slightly different RPC service that contains our extra features, which at that point wasn't actually possible to use from the Polkadot.js API. So it would know about it, but it wouldn't automatically know about it and expose it. I know that Yako did a change, and we have upgraded to that, but I have not been implementing that on the JavaScript side. That would now also expose that new feature with the description, similar to the custom types that you can have. You can tell it now, look, I have also these custom functions with these parameters. Please expose them too, and that would make things easy again. Yeah, that's in there, which is very exciting. I was actually very pleased how easy it turned out to be. I thought it would be much harder to get that done, but that was actually pretty nice.
Awesome. Okay, that sounds good. So I'll see you guys next week. I think we're gonna, so I know Germany changed time this week and that caused some confusion, in the US and Canada changed time on November 3rd, which is also before our next meeting. So my plan is to just stay at 1600 UTC, or what do people think about that?
I am actually not sure if I can make it next time because it's Parity retreat week.
Yeah, right. I'll be there as well. I was hoping I could still host it. I guess I'm planning on coming, and if that's not going to work out for whatever reason, then I'll post in the technical chat and make sure everybody's informed.
I just think at the time zone we have scheduled some things, maybe.
Oh, I see. Okay, so stand by on that then. I'll report back and communicate clearly on Substrate technical chat about next week.
That's great. Perfect.
Okay, and so whenever we meet next, the topics on my list are to dig more into Gather, to look at the Treasury module and how we can, for example, if we consume some funds, send it to the Treasury instead of burning it, like in Hyungsuk's name registry example. And then I remember, Alex, you wanted to talk about rotating validator set in a live network, so we could do a demo of that too. I've actually been meaning to do a hey, let's all start a network together session for a while, so that'll be a good chance to do that. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you next time. And thanks to whoever reminded me to record. I really, really appreciate that.
Thanks for the session.
Yeah.
For the session.
See you next time.
Thank you. See you,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone. See you later.
Bye.